We're going to start Excel. So what we've looked at is we looked at Word, which is our paper-based communication. We're going to do a report. We're going to do a business communication, a flyer, something for either school or business. We've looked at PowerPoint, where this is our personal presentation when we're standing in front of people and it's helping us communicate and do that presentation. What Excel is, it's basically a big, powerful calculator. It's our calculation engine. It's going to help us do business modeling and calculations. It's going to help us be able to understand data and do some calculations so that we can present it in either Word or PowerPoint. So starting up Excel, we're going to go here to our icon. We're going to double click on it, or you can go from the start menu, make this full screen. And Excel looks a little different than what we've had before. And it's a table. It's a whole bunch of rows and it's a whole bunch of columns that are working together. And each one of these is just like a calculator. So we could type things in like a calculator. We're going to go 3 plus 4 times 5, and it does a calculation for us, just like we could do on a personal calculator. So how Excel is organized is it's built into rows and columns. So here we have rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, each row going all the way across. So here's row 4, all the way across. And we have a whole bunch of columns, and columns are numbered by letters, and here's column E, which goes vertically down. And the intersection of a row and a column is a cell, and this cell is called E4. So the intersection of rows and is a cell, and a cell can contain a few things. One thing it can contain is something like data. Okay, so it could be a name. Okay, it could be a number like 35. It could be a date. Okay, anything, we can put anything inside of a cell. The second thing a cell can do is be part of a calculation. And so a calculation, this is like what we had before, which is 3 plus 4 times 5. Okay, so we do some calculation. And if it's a calculation, it shows the result. It has the calculation side of it, but it just shows the result of the calculation. Okay? So data, these are generally inputs. Okay? And calculation, this is generally an output from Excel. It's a result of something we want to do, or an intermediate value. Okay? It may not be the end result that we want, but it's something that we're going to use as a basis for another piece of calculation. The collection of cells, all of these cells here, everything that's here, this is a worksheet. And we can see that on the bottom we have different worksheets and a collection of worksheets. So here we have 3 worksheets. This is called a workbook. And if we're going to save this, I'll just do a quick save as. Okay. It's going to be saved as an Excel workbook, which is basically an XL or an XLS, sorry, XLS or an XLSX file. So you notice that when we looked at calculation here, that all of our calculations start with an equal sign. So really the big difference between a calculator and Excel is that in a calculator you put an equal sign at the end, in Excel you put an equal sign in the front, because we're saying this is going to be a calculation rather than a piece of data. So you have some operators. So our operators in Excel, just like we had before, or have in mathematics, okay, but we'll do kind of the top-down thing. So the first thing is that we would do negation. Okay? And this is the negative sign. Okay, so just a negative sign, it's going to change the value from a positive to a negative or a negative to a positive. Okay? Second thing we have is we have functions. And we'll talk about those later, but they're really things that Excel does to build in. So one of the things we might do is something like sum. Okay, so that's going to get done second in our operations. Then we have brackets. So like we have in mathematics, brackets are next. Okay, so just brackets. Exponentiation. Oops. Exponentiation is next, and thus that's going to be the caret. Okay. Then we have multiplication and division. Okay. And multiplication is shift 8, the asterisk, and division is the slash. Okay. And the last thing we have is adding and subtracting. Okay. And adding and subtracting, this is the plus or the minus sign. And it didn't like that because it's trying to turn it into a formula. Okay. So values and calculations, they can be one of two things. So we have a bunch of values up here. These are literal values, values that we type in. Okay. So literal values, these are values that are typed into Excel. Okay. Another value that we can use is a cell reference. Okay. And a cell reference is, for example, something like B3. Okay, or in our case here, let's say E4. Okay. What Excel does is it goes to that cell, reads the value, and uses that as an input. So reads the value from cell E4. So if I did something here and I said this formula is equal to E4, then this and this have the same data because this is going to E4. And so it's going to take that. If I change this to be that, the other cell changes with it, okay? Because this is referencing that. Okay? The other thing we can reference is ranges, okay? And this is something like I might want all of the stuff here, all of those things. Actually, I'll take all these numbers here, and that's values B9 to B14, okay? So the range is, this would be something like B9 to B14, okay? And now we can take that and put it into a function, something like, well, we'll do something like here, the sum of B9 to B14. And even though I didn't type it properly, B9, it's actually going to go and add that column of numbers up. Okay. So this set of numbers here, color like that, is referred to there. So a cell reference is basically the name is named by the column and the row. So we're going to start with the column. So here was column E and row 4. The intersection of that was that cell. If we wanted to fill in some data, we can drag the bottom corner of cells. So instead of having all these A1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if I did 1, 2, and I highlighted both of those, actually if I just wanted to take one all the way down, I could just go and I could drag the bottom corner and it would copy that in all the different cells. If I take 1 and 2 and I drag it here, it's going to assume what the values are that I'm making a series. This is called an autofill. So an autofill, you just drag the bottom corner and then expand the selection, and it's going to make everything expand, do all of the calculations. All right. Next thing we're going to do is enter calculations. So you can click on a cell and it'll put the cell reference to the calculation. So if I wanted to add up a couple of these, so I could say I'm going to start with this, so a calculation, I'm going to start with an equal sign. So equals, that tells Excel that I'm doing a calculation. And then I could click on a value. And when I click on it, it actually puts in the cell reference. Okay? do an operation like plus, and I could type in the cell reference like B12, just literal like that. Plus, and doesn't matter with the space or not, I can also use the arrow keys. So I'm going to hit the left arrow key, and you can see where the selection is going as I'm doing it. Plus that, press enter, and now I have a formula that did the 3 different ways that I can select a cell. Okay. So that's the basics of Excel. We'll take a look at how we do absolute cell references and a bunch of the formatting that we do inside of Excel.